and welcome back, students, to our final lesson for this chapter. We've been talking about packages in JavaDoc. We've talked extensively about packages, so now let's get into JavaDoc. So a quick introduction to JavaDoc. The principles of encapsulation using information hiding say that you should separate the interface of a class, which is instruction on how to use it, from the implementation, which is the detailed code to tell the computer how the class does work. So pretty much, in other words, what this says is that you put your instructions of how to use your program separate from the actual code that runs your program. Now, in some other programming languages such as C++, you will normally define a class into two files. One file contains something like an interface or an API that tells the programmer all he or she really needs to know about the class, and then the other file contains the implementation details that are needed for the class to actually run. Now, this system is an obvious way to separate interface from implementation, but it's not kind of how Java does it. It handles it slightly differently. And that handles through JavaDoc. Now, Java does not divide a class definition into two files. Instead, Java has the interface and the implementation of a class mixed together into a single file. If this were it, Java, though, would not do a very good job of encapsulation using information hiding. However, Java has a way put in place of separating the interface from the implementation. And what this is Java comes with a program called JavaDoc that automatically will extract the interface from a class definition. If your class definition is correctly commented, a programmer using your class need only look at the API or the documentation produced by the JavaDoc. They don't actually have to go open up the code to figure out how to use the code. Now, the documentation produced by JavaDoc is identical in format to the documentation for the standard Java library classes. So when you run this exe, the format that it produces is the same as if you were to go pull up the standard Java libraries and look at them. It's the same layout. Now, the result of running JavaDoc on a class is to produce an HTML file with the API or interface documentation for the class. Now, if you're not familiar with HTML, it's a basic language used to produce documents to view with a web browser, so the documentation produced by a JavaDoc is then used on a web browser. So either open up like Google Chrome, Edge, Firefox, whatever you have set as your default. Now, here's the thing. You don't need to actually know anything about HTML in order to run JavaDoc or to be able to read the documentation that it will produce. You don't need to worry about any of that. It's all set up to just be a file. So just like you're going to a web page, you just open up and off you go. Now, JavaDoc can be used to obtain documentation for a single class. So if you wanted to document just a class, you could. However, typically it's used to obtain documentation for an entire package. So if you have like multiple class files, you have them all in a package, that's what you're doing. We'll first discuss how you should comment classes so you can get the most value out of JavaDoc for describing how you run the JavaDoc program. Now, key note, what I'm going to show you guys is going to be a lot easier than if you were to do this through a command line interface. There's a lot of steps and additions, subtractions, stuff like that you got to worry about. Different things you can point to. I'm going to show you the cut and dry way. So let's start first by commenting our classes for JavaDoc. So to get a more useful Java document, you must first write your comments in a particular way. All the classes in our example have been commented for use with JavaDoc. However, to show today's comments shown or briefer than would be ideal. So I'm just going to quickly pop over to Eclipse here, and I have this JavaDoc example right here. And in here, you can see I have started a comment field up here. So if I wanted to, like, let's say I just start off from the scratch, a lot of times if you create a program, it will sometimes add this comment field in here for you. And if it does, sometimes you've just been deleting it out. But if it adds this up here, just leave it. This is simply just commented code. I can collapse it. It just hides it. Now, this right here is where you'll put the information that JavaDoc is going to start pulling information out of. So the JavaDoc program will extract the heading for your class or classes, as well as the headings for all public methods, public instance variables, public static variables, and certain comments. So remember how we've been using different comments that use these block settings? That's really what JavaDoc is going to look for. It doesn't really like the single line comments like these so much, but if you've been commenting before a public method, this is the reason why I've been having you do them a certain way, because this is how the JavaDoc will actually generate to produce those different help files of how something works. Now, no method bodies or private items are extracted when JavaDoc is running the normal default mode. So let me just quickly go over here to, let's say, I'm going to see if there's one here. I'll go round stuff 3 here. So for example, this right here would go into your JavaDoc. This would talk about the class, all right, what the round stuff 3 method would do. Right here, this right here would also show up because you have this method right here, public static double radius. This right here would actually then show up in the help file as what this does. It would say return the area of a circle given the radius. That's what the purpose of us putting these in here. So when we actually run the file, you'll be able to see those sorts of things. Okay. Let me go back to the PowerPoint. Now, commenting classes for JavaDoc. For JavaDoc, in the default mode to extract a comment, the comment has to satisfy one or two conditions. The first condition is that the comment must immediately precede a public class definition, a public method definition, or other public item. If it's private, it's not even going to bother. It has to be public. All right. Additionally, the comment has to be a block comment. As I already mentioned, it has to be the /* and a */ style comment, and the opening has to contain an extra star. So the comment must be marked by /* at the beginning and /* at the end. So in other words, for example, if I can do a block comment right here, so if I just do /* and hit enter, you'll notice that this is just a normal block comment. Right? This will not be used by JavaDoc. Okay. Additionally, if we look at our single line comments, I already mentioned this. Right, these also will not be used. You'll notice that this comment up here has 2 stars right at the beginning, meaning that this will be used by JavaDoc. And you'll also notice that there is a stylizing color difference that's used by Eclipse here. Eclipse will do normal comments under a green tone, but for the ones that are going to end up being used by JavaDocs, they will have this blue tone. So there is some differentiation there between those two. All right, unless you explicitly set an extra option to JavaDoc, line comments, that's / style comments, are not extracted, and comments preceding any private items are not also extracted. So as I already mentioned, single line comments, they don't do it, and also anything that's like a private, so like your private instance variables, private methods, they're not going to be included. Now the comment that precedes a public method definition can include any general information that you like. So if you want it to, just say calculates the average, that's great. However, one thing I do want to note is that even though you can kind of have it say whatever you want, the more specific it is, the more helpful it is to the person that wants to use your program. So if it just says calculates the average, if they know what the program is doing, that's great. But if it just says calculate the average, but doesn't say of what, you might want to specify what that's for. So for example, it might say calculate the average of the sum of test scores. That's a little bit more specific than just calculate the average. Now, there's also special syntax for inserting descriptions of parameters, any value returned, and any exceptions that might be thrown. Now, please note that we haven't yet discussed what an exception is or what throws are, as those are concepts that we're going to handle in programming too. You might have encountered some different types of errors that have been thrown, like mismatch errors and stuff like that. But again, those aren't things that we're really going to worry about too much for the scope of this class. All right, next is the @ tag. This is special information about parameters and so forth that are preceded by the @ symbol, and these are what's known as @ tags. Now, the following is an example of a method comment for use of JavaDoc. So this says, test for equality of 2 persons of type person to be equal to 2 objects must have the same name, same date, birth date, and same death date. @ param, other person, the person is being compared to the calling object. @ return true, the calling object equals other person. And then public boolean equals person, other person. All right. So in here, you'll see that we have 2 tags. All right. One is @ param and one is @ return. So let's talk about those tags a little bit more. You'll note that the @ tags all come after any general comment, that each @ tag is kind of on a line by itself. So here's some more descriptions of @ tags. So @ param, so then you give a parameter. @ return, and then give a description of what's returned. At throws gives you the exception of what's thrown. At deprecated, at cPackageName.className, at author, and at version. The at tags should appear in the above order. So whenever you're putting them in, they always go in the order that we have in the following of the previous slide. First is at parameter, then at return, then at throws, etc. If there are multiple parameters, now they should each have their own at param and appear in a separate line. So let's say you had 3 parameters. Let's say you had name. Let's use the date example. We have the string name. We have a date birth and a date death. Then you'll have the parameter for the name, you'll have the parameter for the birth date, and then you'll have the parameter for the death date. The parameters in their at params description should be listed in their left to right order in the parameter list. If there are multiple authors, they should each have their own at author and appear on a separate line. So, for example, if you're working on a partner exercise, then you and your partner should both put at and then followed by your name, but it should be, the first partner's name on the one line, the second partner's name on another line. The author and version information are not extracted unless suitable option flags have been set as described. So, another tag to talk about is deprecated, and this is a very important one, even if we're not going to really be going too much beyond the scope of what's in the default. If at deprecated is included in a method comment, then the documentation notes that that method is deprecated. So let's say you have a method in your program, let's just call it, public void, get new value. I'm just making something up on the fly here. And you originally just used this method just to kind of test something out when you're developing your program. Well, later on, you're not really needing that method, but it's still in your code, right? So that's what's known as a deprecated method. It's one that's kind of being phased out. But in order to allow for backwards compatibility, your method is still functional, but you don't really want people to use it in the new code. So what you do is you add the at deprecated tag into the comment before that method, so people know that, hey, if you go to try and use this method, that's the old way. You really should use this new method instead. Now, if an at tag is included for an item, JavaDoc extracts the explanation for the item and includes it in the documentation. Now, you should always include a more or less complete set of at tags in the count for each of your methods. In this course, we tend to omit at tags just to save space, but we encourage you to always include them. So, we've seen this in our parameters. We haven't always put a description with an at tag in there for what you really need to use it for. But, again, if you want to produce proper documentation, you're going to want to use these. Now, the comments that are not part of an at tag appear as a general comment for the method, along with the method heading. You can also insert HTML commands into your comments to gain more control over JavaDoc, but again, that's not necessary and may not even be desirable. HTML commands can actually clutter the comments, make them much harder to read when you look at source code. So, again, I would just kind of stick with the default of what we're going to show you. It's just another option of things that you can do. Now, for running JavaDoc, so this is the part I know the show you really wanted to see. To create a JavaDoc Eclipse, it can be done by using project generate JavaDoc. If you didn't have an IDE, such as Eclipse, to do this, you have to use the command line to enter things like JavaDoc -d documentation packaging. When you're running JavaDoc, you typically get a lot more files and directories and many more HTML files than you might expect, right? And just lastly, you don't need to run JavaDoc on an entire package, though typically we do. I mentioned earlier we can do it for a single class, but again, you don't need to do it for a whole package. You can do it for a class, but a lot of times for the package. So let's go over to Eclipse here. And in here I have my author tag, and I'm just going to go ahead and add and you can see all these different things come up here. I'm going to use an at version, and I can just add a version, and I can just call this version, let's just say 1.0. Right? And so this is, for example, if you are pushing out multiple iterations of code. So you have like a bug fix that comes out. Originally you launched version 1.0, it's, yeah, it's a great program, goes out great, and you find you have this terrible bug in your program because it causes the program to crash. Like, oh no, we need to fix that. So you push out the fix and people get it, and then if you don't change the version number though, people might still think that bug exists. So what you say, hey, bug comes out, it's been fixed. We started off with version 1.0, 0, but now we're on 1.0.a, for example. All right, so that's how you can fix it. A lot of times that's what you'll see in software development. It's number, letter, just that's how it goes. Sometimes you might have number. It depends upon the company and whatever their protocol rules are. It varies. All right, but we're going to start with version 1.0, and this is a quick, like I said, JavaDoc example here. And to create the JavaDoc file, all I'm going to do is go up here, go to Project, and I'm going to click on Generate JavaDoc. It's that simple. Don't have to deal with any command line stuff. It's really easy. Now, in here, this may not be filled in for you, the JavaDoc command. So if this is blank here, if it looks like this, it's going to tell you need to give a JavaDoc command. So I just click on Configure, and I have to go here to the JDK folder. Now, if you're not familiar with this, I'll walk you through it. You go to your C drive, go to Program Files, not 86, because you can go in here, you'll see, yes, there's a Java file, but this does not say JDK. It has to say JDK in order for this to work. So I have to go into Program Files, Java, and you'll see here I have the JDK. Open up the JDK, and in here is a bunch of different things. I want to go into the bin folder. This is my binary files. And right here you'll see here's javadoc.exe. You'll also see there's some other commands in here of different things that you can do, but we haven't really focused on those. So we're just going to focus on the javadoc.exe. Click Open, and you can see that it fills the file path in for you. Click on the file folder that you want to generate your JavaDoc for. So for now, I'm just going to use this javadoc.example, and I'm going to click on Finish. You'll see that it goes ahead and loads the program, builds a bunch of indexes, and I've already opened up the folder here on my OneDrive where the JavaDoc example is. And you can see that we now have this folder here that says doc. Previously, that folder wasn't there. Like if I go and look at any of my other workspace folders, you see there's no doc there. Right? So that is what's created by the JavaDoc. Open that up, and you'll see I have a bunch of HTML files in here. I have some file folders in here. If I actually want to look at my thing, all I'm going to do is go to index.html, double click that, and it will actually open up a web page with my class here. So you can see right here, public class JavaDoc example x6 java.lang.object. So it's just extending the Java language. Version 1.0, author D. Rogenbuck. So remember, that was the information that I had in that top comment there. In here, you can see we have some constructors. So here's my JavaDoc example. And in here, it'll tell me all my methods. I can also toggle just to static methods and concrete methods. All right. Here's some constructor details and stuff like that. Now, this is not really a good one to fully look at to kind of dive into stuff. So if I wanted to, let's say, go here and just do a different one. So I'm going to go to Project, Generate JavaDoc. So let's uncheck this one, and let's do for round stuff 3. Why not? All right. And I'm going to change this here and tell this to go into the round stuff 3 folder. So there it is. And click Finish. And just click Yes. All right, so let's go look at round stuff 3. And you can see here's the stuff that all got spit into here because I forgot to put into a doc folder. But open up index.html and close the other one. Here's round stuff 3. And you can see here it is. There's no author pieces in here because we didn't add any of that commenting. But in here you can see that we now have more methods shown. So here's tells you the static double, and you have one for area, and you have one for main, and you have one for volume. We go to static methods, you see those all kind of follow along there, and it gives you some more information here. So if I click on area, for example, it'll jump down here to method detail area. Public static double area, it tells you the full method header, and then here it tells you what that method does. Return the area of a circle given the radius. So like I said, whatever you put into that piece there, it's going to show up into the JavaDoc. Right? Now, if you wanted to get rid of this stuff here, because you're like, well, I don't want all this stuff just cluttering pretty much everything here. Right? It's pretty easy to do. You just can come right in and you can pretty much just delete that out. Now, if you're not sure, like, well, what's in here? Well, just look here. Now, we just have settings, band, source, class, product, and project. Right? So, I'm going to leave those there. Click these. Click those. Yep. and it's just that easy to clean up pretty much everything that you need. Because in the end, you're just going to have these pieces right here. So that's how you can get rid of that. And of course, if you delete them out of there, Eclipse might come and yell at you for having a folder that's no longer there. But if not, pretty good. So I'm just going to close that. And that's about it here, folks. So here's a JavaDoc example, and we've made a JavaDoc for that. So you'll be making your own for the lab, and that's, I think, pretty straightforward. That kind of wraps this chapter up, though, so we will see you next time.